Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Bulletproof Mindset and the Depression Support Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to answer 4 core questions. And this is going to be a beautiful episode and a new series in some way, shape, or form. That Quora.com is a fantastic place if you want to get some random questions answered. Let's say you go on Google and you type in, you know, if I was depressed, what would I do? I'm 45 years old and I don't know what to do. Right. That Google will be useful for that. ChatGPT will be a little bit better, but Quora is actually going to be a human answering your question, a human answering your question. So if you type in that question that I just said there, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the popularity of the question, depending on how useful the question is to the world. Many people will answer, or 1 or 2 will answer. I've taken 4 questions from Quora today. I'm going to answer these 4 questions. And to share these 4 questions, I will share them here in 1 second. Okay, so here we go. Share. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the photos. If you're not watching on YouTube, well, I'm going to call out these photos at these questions. Okay, question 1 out of 4 is I have depression for 8 months. What should I do? Number 2, question 2, I have clinical depression with no one to help me. Why should I live? Number 3, should I say? Is it normal to feel depressed but do not want to seek help? And number 4, why is everyone suffering from depression these days? With depression rates steadily increasing, what can we do to fix this problem? Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to dig into these questions and I'm going to help you out in some way, shape, or form. I hope one of these questions resonates with you the most. I'm not at the advanced level where I'm going to be editing this using clips, using edits. I don't know why I said clips, using edits, and then also at a place or a phase where I'll be adding in timestamps. Maybe I could do that. Definitely could do that. But anyhow, I'm going to just get to the good stuff and answer these questions. Before I do that, of course, the sponsor of this podcast is quasi.com and upskillonline.org. I am Gary the Expert, and I help men and women with depression, a little bit of addiction, and also anxiety. I hope you're having a tremendous day today. And in this episode, I hope to help you even more to make your day even better. Okay, let's have an amazing episode. Question 1. I have depression for 8 months now. What should I do? Normal standard of depression, normal diagnosis of depression. That could be a first question, at least for this person. Are you diagnosed with depression? Have you been diagnosed with depression? Because you haven't. Going to the GP, going to the doctor is advised right away. And from there, maybe you want to go to 1 or 2 doctors, maybe even 3 doctors to get a clear-cut answer. But it might be also very obvious if you have depression or not. I would look at those symptoms that you have. And if you have those for more than 2 weeks, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, the DSM-5, says you need to have 9 symptoms. You need to have 5 of the 9 symptoms. I'm not going to go through all the 9 now. They're on top of my mind. But you need to have 5 of those symptoms present for the last 2 weeks, which this DSM-5 has changed over the various years. I mean, 5 is the 5th version. So it's constantly evolving and, keep up to date with that. I have depression for 8 months now. What should I do? First of all, go to the GP, maybe get a diagnosis, maybe get some help, maybe get some medication if you need it. If you do need it, go to therapy, right? Reach out for help in therapy or go, some sort of route around your personal development, personal growth. Also, when you're in therapy or you're doing your own personal growth, and I'll take a stance on personal growth right now because each therapist could have different insights, different perspectives, which is a beautiful thing and can be a curse, especially if you have too many therapists. If you have too many therapists, it's definitely going to be a curse because you really don't know whose advice. This person says that person says this. Even if you have friends or you have a business, this person says that. It's too much conflict and information. But if you're going on your own personal development route, your personal journey, and what you can do yourself, of course, go to GP, go to therapy. That's things you can take action for. But what else can you do? Very common, get outside in nature. Simple one, but very, 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 very helpful. Again, not doing anything in your day is a common symptom of depression, right? It's not even a symptom, it's just a common habitual trait of depression. It's where people just sit around doing nothing. There's high functioning depression, but I think that's a lot less common. Normally, naturally, be lying around, not doing the errands, which is also a good thing to do. The chores or cooking food, all these things actually help our mental health. Yeah, the very small things of cooking our own food or, doing something, right? Doing anything is good for our well-being. But then if you want to take the next level, going for a walk or doing an exercise or going to have some healthy food, you're really, really starting to close the doors on depression in many ways. If you're lying in your bed, depression is coming in. If you're just scrolling your phone, it's just You're just opening all the unconscious negative doors, and we don't want to open those doors. We want to close those doors, and we want to, get out in nature where we have to interact with other people. We see other people. We have, birds chirping, which distracts us from quote unquote depression. So after you've done this, going into nature, after you've started to take your own grasp on it, I would suggest then, currently looking at the current situation of your life. What I mean by that is take an image, take a picture, maybe even journal about where you are in this situation. So it's been 8 months now. What were you like before this? What were you like before the 8 months? What are you like now? And that's a good little contrast, because oftentimes when I help clients, they always say, I want to go back. I want to go back to that person. And I say, that's fine, but you can't go backwards. So at least let's take some characteristics and traits from that person and bring it into the future, right? Because we got to do it going forward. So what were they doing? What were you doing? What should you do? What were you doing? Look back in the past, reflect, and then you can go that and use that forward. Did you get fired from work? Did you break up with someone? Do you know the reason for your depression? Did you lose a parent? Did you lose a family member? What's causing this in the last 8 months? Yeah. Have a look at that. And before that, if you're doing exercise, if you're going out for walks, if you're going out with your friends, start introducing those back into yourself. Yeah. You're not going to have the exact same experience of before 8 months. We're going to recreate similar experiences going forward. Okay. Let's move on to the second question. The second question is, I have clinical depression with no one to help me. Why should I live? Well, now this person is diagnosed, unlike the last person didn't give context to if they were depressed or not. They maybe self-diagnosed themselves off Google, which is never a good idea. It can be helpful, but don't get caught in the trap. Just don't get caught in the trap overthinking of the self-diagnosis. It might be helpful to look up some symptoms. It might be helpful to look up some ideas of what it could be, and then maybe some strategies to come out of that. But don't put all your chips in one basket or all your eggs in one basket, thinking that this thing that I've read in Google is the exact thing that I have, and that's it. Fact. I think it can actually be very harmful. Of course, we all know self-diagnosis is not the grandest route. All right, I've clinical depression and no one to help me. Why should I live? Well, this is a trick of depression. It's a trap of depression. Very common trap. While you are depressed, your mind deceives you like 100 times more than your mind deceives you normally. For example, if I'm walking down the road, I think that person's looking at me. I'm probably deceiving myself, tricking myself, right? That's a little low value, low risk deceiving. And it could also be beneficial or negative. If this person's looking at me, right, I don't look, that saves my life somehow. Butterfly effect, Mandela effect, I think it's called. Butterfly effect. I've no clue how that's going to manifest, right? But when we talk about deceiving the mind deceives us and it tricks us, and you have the angel on one side, the devil on the other side. Well, your mind is clearly convincing you that you should not live. You should not live because you have clinical depression. And this is probably a bad point of getting diagnosed. It's like, oh, I have clinical depression. Well, then that's it. Everything's finished. Well, that attitude is actually not going to get you anywhere. It really isn't. And you need to take an attitude of, because I have clinical depression, I'm going to work on stuff to get out of it. And that attitude must be continued. It has to be continued. To sit on a sideline and say, I have clinical depression and no one to help me. Why should I live? It's so terrible. It's such a terrible attitude. And that's depression for you. I'm not saying you have a terrible attitude who's listening or who's written this question. It's depression as a terrible attitude. And depression will always have a terrible attitude. That is what depression is. It's kind of like, if I'm sad, I'm not happy. It's literally that. If I'm depressed, I'm not in a positive attitude. Fact. So you got to realize that. I realize that basically anything you are thinking or talking when you're depressed is not going to be basically anything. Let's say 80% of the stuff that's going through your mind is not going to be helpful for you. Because that is how dark and deceivious and crippling depression is. It is scary. Ruminating, a key symptom of depression. If you are constantly thinking, why should you live? The question begs so much doubt, fear. Why should I live is a question that I don't think anybody has an answer to. And we can all give our own interpretations of the answer. We can all give our own thoughts or reasonings. And I have mine. Why should I live? I should live because life is beautiful. I have one opportunity on this life. Why not experience it and have great joy on this planet right here and right now? But if you're depressed and you're asking, why should I live? Of course, your answers are going to be, again, framing it in a negative mind, because that's what a negative mind is. Why should I live? I shouldn't live. There's no point of living. Nobody cares about me. Clearly, that's what you mentioned in your question. With no one to help me. Nobody cares about you. That's what you're thinking. So why would you live? What reasonings or rationales have you got? You've got to get this question out of your mind altogether and reassess this question when you're in a positive mindset, because this question is not helpful at all right now. You need to ask yourself better questions. Who can help me? Could it be a therapist? Could it be a psychologist? You've already got clinical depression. Could you go back there and get other help? Could you have a family member? Talk to them. Are you not asking them because you fear of X, Y, and Z, which is a common thing as well? You have a fear of, I'm supposed to be the strong one here and I have depression and these people don't love me anymore, because that's what depression will tell you. They don't love me. Why should I live is such a terrible question when you're depressed. Terrible. It's honestly a pretty bad question at any stage, because it's like so you can ask a question of like something around religion, and you could just keep hammering away at details of religion, and you're just going to add more doubt and doubt and doubt to your life. There's a certain level where you just got to accept that you should live because you have an impact on the world. Every person you've interacted with up until this moment has been impacted by you. So all of the experiences my family got to have with me being around was with me being around. They would have had a completely different life if I wasn't there. This is how valuable I am and how valuable you are. You are possibly a family giver. You are a great inspiration if you change your life around. I'm a great inspiration, I believe, because I changed my life from depressed addict. And I want you to be that as well, because on this side of the coin, you can feel great strength. You can feel great pride. If you've had hard times, you'll know what I mean. And you've overcome them, of course. I suggest reaching out for help. You say no one is here to help you. I suggest reaching out for help. And why should you live? I suggest you don't ask this question in a depressed mindset. Let's move on to the next question. Is it normal to feel depressed but not want to seek help? Short answer, because it's a closed question, is yes. Depression deceives you. Depression tricks you. Depression tells you lies. Depression is very good at telling lies and very good at deceiving. It is very good at deceiving. Depression is extremely good at tricking you into believing BS, belief systems, of course, into tricking you into believing crap. Why are you asking the question? If you feel depressed, is it okay? Is it normal not to want to seek help? Yes. When you're depressed, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to eat any food. You don't want to have any sex drive. You don't want to have any conversations. You don't want to be in anyone's company. You don't want to go to any work. You don't want to watch any videos. You don't see the point of being, you don't want to do any living. All right. So is it normal not to seek help? Absolutely. If you don't have food, you don't have sex, if you don't want to watch videos, if you don't want to talk, seeking help is, of course, one of the bottom things of the list. Because that means you actually have to face something. You actually have to do something. Yeah, watching TV is pretty easy. Having food is pretty easy. It's a low task. Actually seeking help is having to call, having to talk, having to introspect, having to reassess, having to realign. And your mind just goes, F that. That's a lot of crap. I don't want to deal with. That's a lot of too much work. Good old depression sentence. That's effort. So yes, of course your mind doesn't want to seek for help. Of course. But I do recommend seeking for help, especially if you're depressed. If you feel sad, it's okay. It's okay. But if the sadness turns in for many weeks, seek help. Let's go to the last question. Why is everyone suffering from depression these days? With depression rates steadily increasing, what can we do to fix this problem? So the overgeneralization, of course, with why is everyone suffering from depression these days? I think that is not true, but I can see his quote unquote analogy with depression rate steadily increasing. Apparently, there's 350 million people worldwide suffering with depression. And then we don't know how much undiagnosed or untreated depression there is. But then it's also increasing at about 6% rate per year. I think, don't quote me on that. But what can we do to steadily increase or decrease this? That's a question I'm going to ask more specifically. So talking about it like this, and letting people know that it's deceiving, letting people know it's tricking, letting people know it's not actually a modality that you want to live from, aka when you think the world is better off without you, that's a false thought. That's a wrong thought. That's a thought that's not helpful. That's a thought that, only spirals downwards. That's a thought that, we could class as not yours, but you heard it, right? We can realize that depression is something like defensively saving you, but it's not saving you. It's tricking you into saving you. So, for example, the thought of life is better off without me. What a ridiculous sentence. But just like I use the analogy of a parachute. When we jump out of a plane, or if I was going to go jump out of a plane, I have a fear in my mind that the parachute isn't going to open. Is that Gary Clinton's thought? No, it's not Gary Clinton's thought. From Dublin, Ireland, it's not his thought. But I've clung onto the thought because I've heard it in my mind. So when you're depressed and you hear life is better off without me, we cling onto the thought. It's the exact same analogy. It's the exact same principle. We cling onto that thought, and then we go inside and we stay inside and we ruminate on that. We ruminate on that. Just like if I was to think, oh, the parachute's not going to open, parachute's not going to open, parachute's not going to open, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get on the plane. Just like if I think life's better off without me, life's better off without me, life's better off without me, I'm going to do something drastic. That's very sad. It's very hurtful. The path, you can see where that path leads you. Yeah, see where that path leads you. So what can we do to steadily reduce the increase of depression? Talk about it, understand it, realize it's okay to feel down, but not okay to stay down. Apparently suicide happens, or unaliving oneself happens every 40 seconds. My mission is to bring that timer way up. In fact, I'd like to get it to 1 minute at least, and then possibly even further beyond them horizons into 1 day, 1 hour, should I say, 24 hours, 48 hours, and then ultimately get to a place where there's no unaliving oneself. That would be an amazing thing. So at least discussing it is one avenue, I'd say. Having a greater structure. It's kind of like in finance in school. Why isn't it being taught in school? Why isn't finance being taught in school? Who the frick is in charge of this crap? Why isn't finance being taught in school? Why isn't understanding of certain mental hurdles, mental traps? Why isn't that being taught in school? Principles. So discussing about it, having principles in your life. What do I mean by that? Is I want to do skydiving, and I have a fear of the parachute not open. Which thought is more strong in my mind? Which one's more compelling? Which one has more value or deeper, compelling answers, basically? So again, if I want to do skydiving, I will do skydiving. If I have a fear that the parachute won't open, I won't do skydiving. Which one is more powerful? So if I really want to test which one's more powerful, then go do the skydive. If I go do the skydive, therefore I know for a fact doing the skydive was more powerful than the fear of the parachute not open. So when we have principles around depression, this also helps. And we can teach this in school. That would be amazing. But we can also learn it from ourselves. What principle do you want to have in your life? AKA, if life says, or your mind says, life is better off without you, you say, that's not true. I love living. And that is your more compelling thought. Just like the example with the skydiving, your more compelling thought is, I love living. So when you hear the thought going, I don't like to live, or life is better off without me, you quiet that in a second. Why? Because you love living and you stand by that principle. And you stand by that principle. Why and how? Because you've got trillions of reasonings. Trillions of reasons. The birds chirping in the morning, the butterfly flying by, the crowd cheering, the goal scoring, the walking in the park, like the sun setting, sun rising, the clouds covering, the plane taking, the flights catching, the memories made, the devastations made, the corruptions made, the insights made, the benefits made, all of these reasonings add up. When you're depressed, all of those reasons drop away. And you think, freaking birds annoy me in the morning. Butterflies, look at the color on that. It's horrible. The plane's gonna crash and I don't want to go on the plane. I'm gonna have a terrible time on the way. I'm going away with this person when I'm going away. The corruption's terrible. The devastation has devastated me. So, principles. I just gave you all of the exact things that I've just said in the positive nature, in the negative nature, and they can be interpreted each or any way. So you could have principles live by that are very strong. The principles being I only, which is a very underline that word, or maybe put it in quotation marks. I only enjoy positive times, right? So put it in quotation marks. Don't take it as a literal sentence, just like life's better off without me. That's not even telling you to X, Y, and Z, die X, Y, and Z. You know, that sentence doesn't say unalive yourself, but it does lead to a road of unaliving oneself. And when we understand that, we won't need to take that path. We won't need to endure that thought process. I'm just thinking here at this question again. To be honest, there is no one answer to do this. There is trillions of answers. Kind of like, how does Apple go to the next level of its business? There is not just one answer to this. There is a trillion answers that we need to look at. I hope this podcast is helping you to get over your ideologies. And I hope this podcast grows immensely so I can help more and more people around the world with depression. Hopefully help them, guide them to make them live a more principled life, a more valued life. And if that principle is related to your religion, if that principle is related to your own experiences, if that principle is related to other people that you've found great value in, they are very strong core principles that you can live by. And even if the principles are based in truth, whatever that is, well, then I'm happy for you to take that on for sure. My name's Gary Clinton. I go by Gary the Expert. Check out GaryTheExpert.com. You'll find the depression course on there. It's 5 weeks, and I hope that I will be able to help you. I'm not here to sell this course. Just thought about it while it's on my mind, and my new website's being created as I'm saying this. If you want to take that, that'd be amazing for yourself. That'd be great to get a review. While you're here, leave a 5-star, leave a review on the podcast. That helps immensely. I would very much appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. If you have an answer, if you want to answer one of these questions, please let us know. Give us an answer. Your answer is as valid as my answer. I do believe that. I might have a little more experience, or you might have a little more experience than me. I appreciate your answer regardless of your thought process or disagreements. Leave a comment if you have an actual question for me that you need help with, or leave a comment on or just answering the questions that I've prompted here today. Sponsor of the podcast, Quasi.com and Upskill Online. I hope you have an amazing day today. My name's Gary. I go by Gary the Expert. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.